Okay, one more video because I gotta get this in as a title. Before the civil rights movement and the emancipation of women, women were considered property, not just slaves, but property. And as such, women also were not considered human in the sense of blacks weren't considered human as property slaves as well. This was the white supremacist operation, modus operandi. But when the church lost Joseph and Hiram, thus the top leadership, the church was shattered. And people went their own way. And there were those who went with Sidney Rigdon, James Strang, Emma, and others. But there were those who were women who needed support. Because without somebody to care for them, they had no rights in society. And that's when Brigham Young enacted the polygamous strategy. We'll seal you to Joseph Smith, but we'll take care of you, or you can be sealed to me or my good buddy Heber, and we'll take care of you as long as you come with us out of the United States into the desert. That's human trafficking, and as the practice of polygamy, they were also sex slave trading or trafficking. That's what it is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. And so to call it by a different name, or religious freedom, such as God's law of marriage, as that's what he actually put in his section 132, which he claimed Joseph Smith wrote it. Because if he came out and said it's his, then the government could step in and say, hey, you know, you've got this from Brigham Young, can't have it. But they said, oh, these are scriptures from Joseph Smith, and the government, okay, fine, just don't preach it or practice it. And they still tried to violate it. But that's why Section 132 remains to this day, despite the official declaration indicating that we're going to comply with the United States government. And so that was their little snub. But Joseph Smith clearly did not teach polygamy. The Book of Mormon, 3 times it's against polygamy. Doctrine and Covenants, before Brigham Young put in Section 132, had 2 sections or chapters on monogamy, which with 131 he took out the parts on monogamy and put in some extra stuff. The spirit is matter in Section 131, and then there's chapter on marriage. Yet he still tries to fool Mormons, claiming, oh, it's Lord's law of marriage, human sex trafficking, which the government calls polygamy. And that's why polygamy is so bad, that Mormons and fundamentalist Mormons don't get it. They think it's God's law of marriage. They don't see it as sex trafficking. And I mean, it's just horrifying to take advantage of women who are already at a disadvantage because they're considered property. they're not even considered human. And then to have such a human trafficking, human rights violation on top of it, it's just deplorable beyond extent. And now today Mormons are saying, oh, we're going to have polygamy in the millennium. Yeah, because I've been warning you, that's what they're setting it up for. You know, the temple change, law of chastity, according to God's law of marriage. What's God's law of marriage? Brigham Young, section 132, 10 virgins, human trafficking, sex slave trafficking. That's what they're going back to. They're already setting it up. And this coronavirus just serves as a distraction while they set things up so to begin practicing it when all of mankind is genocidally murdered, so that all who are left are going to be dependent on the church for survival. Just like when Brigham Young shattered the church with the murder of Joseph and Hiram. Oh, they're gone. I'll take over. I'll save you. That's the tactic of evil. They cause the problem and then come out and claim they have the solution. And taking away agency, slavery, human trafficking, extortion. My third great grandmother, or third great aunt, Desdemona Fulmer, they wanted her, and she was convinced to be sealed to Joseph Smith in order to go to Utah. I don't think she ever did get with anybody else, but they got my third great grandfather, John Solomon Fulmer, to go because they bribed him. They gave him a position in finances and gave him a polygamous wife, and so he got fooled. But it's just horrific when you find out the real story. But what I was also trying to point out in the description of the previous video is that the real church history, the real story about how everything got started, is awesome. That's why I put gold treasure plates, Knights Templar as the thumbnail picture. You're probably thinking, I don't recall that from history, Travis. Exactly. They're covering that up. That part is awesome. But yes, it means that the Book of Mormon is not an actual history. It comes from the Knights Templar lore. You know, the Holy Grail, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. King Arthur, brave Sir Robin, runs away. And the well where Joseph finds his stones, his Urim and Thummim, also Knights Templar. You know, and the whole concept of murder, espionage, coup d'etat of American government is all a part of LDS church history. Joseph Smith was running as the first candidate for president as an abolitionist. Wouldn't we want to know that as Mormons? Nope. We had to say blacks are evil because they were disobedient in the pre-mortal existence. And we only allowed the priesthood to blacks in 1978 because at the same year the quid pro quo occurred to release the church from liability from the Edmunds-Tucker Act so that they can one day again, in the millennium, practice polygamy, human sex trafficking. It's just, And how do you get that across to Mormons when a Mormon is now on shift in YouTube? The previous video was slowly processed in comparison with the one prior to this Mormon's shift taking over. Unbelievable. And I did the video indicating you are liable when you commit crime. The church is liable, when you commit crime. And Mormons are complaining, oh, the news always says that the person is Mormon when they're convicted of a crime. They never say Catholic or Christian. It's because the church has set themselves up for liability. The Catholics haven't. Alright.